My name's Denny. I'm going to facilitate this particular class. For anyone who has ever put on an event, I'm probably going to teach you nothing you already don't know. Okay? So if you think you're going to be amazed, but what I do hope to do is to
good setting expectations.
Highlight a couple of events or a couple of topics. And I do hope that I bring some new knowledge to each and every one of you out there. Again, this is nothing exciting, nothing unknown, but maybe just expand upon what we already have in our minds to begin with. Okay, so what I expect or what I intend to cover today will be the different type of events, legal requirements, and some considerations that you should give for your event planning. This is not an event coordinator class, this is an event planning class. So I know that event coordinator and event planning are almost one and the same, but somebody said earlier, event coordinator is only for event coordinators. Nah, not at all. Okay, so the type of runs, the most common and easiest run to facilitate would be your chapter fun run. It's pretty straightforward, right? The only complication would be if you're going to do an overnight run. I know some chapters, they like to do a sunrise to sunset run, going all the way across the state. A lot of fun. Well, there's another level of complexity in that you have to think about hotels, right? Where you're going to stay, your gas stops, food stops, etc. Okay. Before we get into hotels later on, let me just say up front that a lot of people feel that if they have their post tax-free certificate, they can go into a hotel, throw it up on the desk, and say, "I want my room tax-free." A lot of hotels will only give you the tax-free exemption if you are paying with your post credit card, debit card, or checking account. You can always try it, but if they say, "Yeah, we're not going to honor it," don't argue with them. Just say, "Thank you very much. Go ahead and check in and pay the tax." Okay? Most common charity ride that we have is a small hooker run, dice run, etc. By small, I'm counting that as anything less than, say 100 motors. A large charity ride, there are some districts and posts that have extremely large charity rides. Post 9, for instance, up in my district, their boots on the ground, they'll get 600, 700, 800 people. Right? Or not people, but motors. 600, 700, 800 motors. Right? That's a whole nother level of complexity. The big thing, all the elements are the same, but the big thing is you're going to need a lot more people in the background to make it successful. So just keep that in the background. Another type of event that we do quite often is your escort, right? ALR escort. We do a lot of funeral escorts. We escort dignitaries. Perhaps when the department commander, unit president, sons, department commander comes into town, your ALR might want to escort them from post to post, right? We love doing that. We put flags on our bike. We're seen, right? Community loves it. We love it. Just remember, as I'll get into it later, as an ALR escort, we're not authorized to deviate from traffic code. Okay? Leo escorted ride, that's a whole other level of complexity. That would be law enforcement. That is where you contract with your local police department to seal off the city and give you free rein. Okay. Another would be in-house dinner, fundraiser party at your post. Complexity level may be very small or may be very large, depending upon the event and to the scale of the event. Okay, so for your ride, like I said, a little chapter charity, chapter fun run is the most easiest to plan. The one thing you have to keep in mind though is you need to plan it for person requirement. Well, what do I mean by that? Okay, for instance, most of us have big old cruisers. It's got 5, 6 gallon gas tanks. Sam, he may have a chopped out Sporty, right, with a little 1.5 gallon peanut tank on it. So plan your ride based upon Sam, not your 6 gallon cruiser tank. Will only chapter members be attending? Well, so when you sign your renewal slip, usually you sign a waiver, and that's put in the file cabinet. Don't think anything about it. Will other chapter members be attending, or other chapters be attending, right, outside of yours? They probably have done the same thing. They probably have a waiver back at their place. But maybe you want to get us, maybe you want to have them sign a waiver for your particular ride. Will there be none ALR members attending? If so, then definitely want to have them sign a waiver.
I got a question. On those waivers, are they good for the year or just for the ride?
Technically, they're just for the ride. Okay? So where do you get a waiver? Well, you can draft your own, but why do that? If you go to Department of Florida ALR or Department of Florida website, go to programs, go to riders, go to resources, there it is. Now what's great about the waiver here? It comes in 2 different formats. A, you can download it and print it right from the web as is, or you can download it as a Word document. And then you can go in and alter it. Why would you want to alter it? Well, maybe you're going to start at a facility that is not your post, right? Maybe you're going to start it over at Schmuckatelli's Bar and Grill, right? Schmuckatelli says, hey, I want to be a part of that waiver. I don't, if anything happens to while your riders are at my place, I want to be on the waiver side, right? So you just go in there and where it says I indemnify, blah, 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 you just click on it, move it over, type in Schmuckatelli's Bar and Grill. If it extends over in the next page, just change the font size, shrink it down. Nobody ever reads them anyway. Same thing with the medical waivers. Right? Just be aware, there's a great class for navigating the Legion website. I encourage everyone to take it. So as you're planning your event, right, you need to decide what's more important. If it's a little chapter event, right, what's more important, the destination or getting to the destination? Okay, if you're riding over to another district for an event that starts at 12 o'clock, you maybe want to get there as quick, soon, easy as possible, so you're going to jump on I-10, 95, 75, anything but 4. But if you're just going over there to steal their plaque, right, and they're like maybe an hour away, you might want to make it a 3-4 hour trip, right? Take all the back roads. That's where you develop the camaraderie with your chapter, right? That's where you develop memories. And nothing says, I want to be a part of this group, than hearing the group sit around the bar and go, oh man, you remember when we did the ride, blah, 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 right? You need that. Right? So sometimes it's about the destination, sometimes it's about getting to the destination. As I said earlier, you need to plan your trip based upon minimum needs of the individual. Maybe their gas tank, take into consideration that they may have dietary restrictions, okay? For instance, if you're gonna plan a fun run and you're gonna end up at Joe's Crab Shack, maybe Sam is allergic to seafood. You better call ahead and make sure Joe has some spaghetti or something. Maybe you have an individual that is a diabetic, and they have to be on a certain feeding schedule, right? Know that up front, so before you get on your bike, you can plan, okay, I know in 2 hours, Dave's got to stop and do an injection, right? Or whatever the case may be, and then plan your route accordingly. Another item to consider is how you're going to get there. Are there going to be any fees involved? Is there going to be any tolls? I can tell you from experience, it's very disheartening when the group rolls up to an on-ramp getting onto the expressway, the sign says, sun pass only. Oh, right? Not good. So let everyone know in advance before you get underway, if you plan on using the expressway. You know, if there's a sun pass, if there's gonna be a fee. Again, it's very disheartening to roll up to, say you're going to a state park, right? You roll up to the park says, we got $1.25 entrance fee, and it's cash only, and it's exact change. Right now, you got 14 bikes all huddled up, trying to dig through their pockets to get spares. Take care of that up front. Will there be none Legion family members on the ride? Well, if so, that's another level of complexity, because we're probably gonna stop at a VSO. Right? If we stop at a VSO and there are none members, what's gotta happen? They have to be sponsored and signed in. Not a big deal, but plan on, you know, when you walk through the door, say, hey, Jimmy, come on over here, I gotta sign you in. Charity rides, again, you got the small rides, dice ride, poker ride. Sometimes it's just a paid fun run, right? They can be a great time. You can say up front, I'm gonna charge $35 to go on this little charity ride. We're gonna stop at a nursing home, we're gonna stop at an old folks home, we're gonna stop at a monument, right? We're not gonna draw cards, we're just gonna go out for a ride, and we're gonna donate proceeds to plunging vet relief or whatever. Large poker dice rides, that's an animal of a different skin. Like I said, all the concept is the same, you just need a lot more supporting cast. When you're planning an event, be realistic. If you had an event last year that only garnered 35, 40 motors, don't expect 200 to show up this year, right? Why is that important? Well, usually when we have an event, we also have entertainment, food, games, etc. Okay, if you go out and buy groceries to feed 200 people and you only get 35 that shows up, A, you got a lot of leftovers, and B, you got a lot of overhead that's wasted, right? So be realistic in your planning. Know what you did before and estimate tomorrow based upon your yesterday. Are you gonna need resources from outside your post? If so, you might want to assign somebody to manage those resources. What do I mean by resources outside your post? You may need a tent, you may need portalettes, you may need chairs, you may need a beer truck, you may need a food truck, right? That's fine. Find out what the requirements are for getting those on site, assign somebody that job, and make sure that they report back to you the status of accomplishing that task. If it becomes complex, by that I mean outside of just a fun run for your chapter, you might want to consider devising a committee, right? And whenever you put on an event, remember, it's not your job to do everything. It's your job to ensure everything gets done. So to make that happen, you need people, right? So assemble a good team, assign them goals, assign them timelines, right? Hold them accountable. You want to have regular meetings, and you want to discuss what's going right, what's going wrong, and adjust as necessary. You also want to keep the individuals focused on their area of responsibility. Okay, so here's an example of a form that was generated for a poker run. Okay. We've got a couple of names, we put a couple of names in there for people to put together sponsor bags, and just generate your own. Just go on Word, Excel, whatever, and generate your own, right? Pick up the meats, get the fixings, right? You assign a name. So what's different between going, hey man, would you take care of this? Yeah man, I got your back. Or going, hey, will you volunteer to head at this task? Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, sign right here.
Yeah.
Right? Because as soon as you sign your name down,
You're obligated.
all of a sudden you have a different mentality. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. It's like, holy crap, now I'm responsible for something. Right? So keep that in the back of your mind. If you generate a form, you put their name in black and white, they're gonna be more apt to take it serious. One of the earlier classes zeroed in on the chicken drop. Right? Everybody know what a chicken drop is? It's a little fundraiser. You take a 4x8 sheet of plywood, you draw a grid on it, similar to a football pool. You put numbers on there, you sell those numbers, put a cage around it. You get a couple of hungry chickens, you throw them in the cage, put a top on the cage, throw in some scratch. Everybody knows when a chicken eats, a chicken poos. And whatever number they poo on, that will be the winner of the chicken. All right, so moving right on, right along. Date and time of your event. Load it down. Date and time of the event. I cannot establish and talk about this enough. This is very, 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 very important. You do not, let me repeat this, do not want to step on anyone else's event, right? So when you decide you want to have an event, you better check within your district to see if anyone else is having an event that day. If they are, you have a couple of choices, right? The only appropriate choice is to move your date, because they already have reserved that date. Now, how does that happen? Each district is different. In our district, we have 5th district calendar, and we have 5th district ALR meetings, right? We have a meeting every other month. Whenever the Legion has their district meeting, it's on the second Sunday of the month. So this Sunday, the Sons will have their meeting just prior to the Legion meeting. Next month, the Riders will have their meeting just prior to the Legion meeting. Okay? At the meeting right after DCC, we get all the directors together and we say, you're gonna have one primary event. That day is gonna be restricted. What day do you want for your primary event? And we write it on the calendar right there, we publish it. Everyone knows that on the 1st of June, chapter whatever is gonna have whatever event, right? And they don't plan anything on that day. So we also require,
about that.
yes,
You know, because at our post, we're at the mercy of the auxiliary and the Sons and Legion, so we had to argue for dates. So by your theory, we would never be able to do an event.
now, I don't believe that to be true. We're one of the largest districts in Florida.
Just not that, you have the VFW, you have the AMVETS in that area, you have other.
Depends on how crowded your area is.
Okay, hang on. So, do I really care what AMVETS is doing?
No.
Yeah, but it's secondary, right? I care what is happening within my ALR, within my chapter, within my district. I'm not really concerned about the VFW. Now, if we can get together and work out a schedule, that's fine. But you know what? I expect you, ALR member, to be at my event, not at VFW event.
And I understand.
And conversely,
what it is.
I would expect to be at your event,
In Tampa,
not Cleveland.
we have so many American Legions.
We have like, what do we got, 19? So, that's a fallacy, okay? So let's move on. So what can we do if somebody does want to step on your event? Well, like I said, in 5th district, if you want to have an ALR event, you have to submit your ALR event to district, to the chairman, right? He'll look on the calendar, she will look on the calendar and say, good, we support, we don't support. If we tell them that there's already an event scheduled and they elect to go ahead and have their event on that day, we can't stop them, but what we can do is not promote them. So their event will not end up on our calendar, it will not end up on our Facebook page as an event. We'll erase it. So they can have their event, but it's gonna be them only.
Yep.
That's the only real repercussion, or not repercussion, but that's the only real discipline
Recourse.
that we can enact upon our chapters, okay?
And I want to clarify that it's only your chapter is what we're talking about, you're not conflicting with your auxiliary and your own post, because that's a whole different entity. We're talking about chapter events only.
Chapter or district?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
so you're.
but you do want to look at what's going on in your district within your Legion family. I mean, it's kind of silly to schedule an event on DCC, for instance, right? Why would you do that? Right, that's kind of silly, but anyway, moving on. So, when you do schedule an event, you should create a pre-event notification form. I'll go into that a little bit later. Yeah, let's just go into it. So we generated one. It looks similar to this, right? All it is just a little information sheet. So what happens? Right? You're sitting in your meeting. You say, I want to have I want to have a low country broil on June 18th. You go up to your kitchen manager, you go up to your commander, you go up to the canteen manager. You say, we want to have a crab boil on June 18th. They're busy, they're like, yeah, okay, no problem. Yep, I don't have anything on the calendar, no problem. They go on about their business, right? Come June, you're looking up on the board, and there's like, the hall's been rented up. Like, what's going on? Right? Well, if you take this if you generate a form and you walk up and say, Commander, I want to have an event on the 18th. Canteen manager, I want to have an event on the 18th. Kitchen manager, whatever, how your post is set up. Right? I want to have an event on the 18th. They sign it, all of a sudden, it's like before, they signed a little piece of paper. They're more inclined to remember, and also, when there's a discussion later, you can pull it up and go, right here, yes, you had prior advanced knowledge, I had precedent. You need to reschedule that birthday party. Okay? Same thing with establishments out in town, right? Generate a form when you're doing your scouting, right? You walk in, you tell the establishment, hey, I want to have a charity event on June the 18th. We want to have a poker run coming through here. We would like to have hot dogs and hamburgers if possible for a snack, or we don't want any snack, right? Tell them what you want. But the big thing is you get their information, they get your information, right? Take it back, put it in your notebook. Now you have it, right? Because a week before you have the event, you're gonna wanna do a pre-ride, and you wanna take that little form with you, right? So when you stop at Schmuckatelli's, you walk in, and the bar manager says, yeah, I don't know anything about that. You can go, well, hey, Mr. Schmuckatelli signed, right? You better get with him, because we're gonna be here, we're gonna need an extra bartender. So we're bringing 75 people, right? Anybody got any questions about what we've covered so far?
Yeah, very Schmuckatelli's.
I was gonna be my question.
Schmuckatelli is on every naval ship I've ever been on.
You're not talking about Smiley's in Daytona, right?
Is that form anywhere we could see it, or
No, that was just
I'll have to
self-generated.
make it up in my brain then?
Yeah.
If you go to the website and look at the slides, you'll have
Yeah.
Oh, it's on
everything they
It will.
show us is on the
Okay.
Resources page.
You need to go to various classes. Show
Yeah, I
very
know.
nice.
I went to her class already.
Yeah, but everything they show is online.
All right.
And like I said, some forms are in
PDF or Word.
PDF, or it could be where you can redo it your own, like you.
But
was
it'll
talking
be a template for you. You can glean it and set your own the way you want it.
Cool,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, so anyway, okay, moving on, so ALR escort ride, let me state emphatically up front that we are not authorized to violate any traffic enforcement code. That means you cannot block traffic. When you block traffic, it's actually a felony. It's called interference with interstate commerce, right? Don't write that down. We're not allowed to run red lights, right? We're not allowed to do any of that. However, if Leo sees us out there escorting the funeral, right? Everybody's got their lights flashing, got their flags flying. They know what we're about, and they respect what we do, okay? I have personally been on a ride. It was a funeral escort. I was up front. It was like a 4-lane highway. We were trying to make a left-hand turn. I jumped out and started blocking traffic. Popo was like about 3 blocks down, saw what was happening, ran up. As he's coming up, he's on his loudspeaker, move it, you're not authorized to block traffic, you're not authorized to violate traffic code, move it. He gets right up on my bike, and I'm thinking, okay,
Going to jail.
I gotta run today, I'm getting a ticket. Right? He's like, I told you, move it! Right? So away I go. What does he do? Spins his car around, shuts down the whole highway, both ways. So, whenever you are in a procession, try to put your headlights on, right, your flashers, and then also be dignified about it, and use common sense. Don't jump out and try to block the street for half dozen bikes. I mean, that's crazy. If you got a procession of, 15, 20 people, yeah, maybe, but use a little common sense. And like I said, police know what we do. They like us, they respect us, and I have yet to be really hassled by Popo for blocking, running red lights, etc. Self-explanatory. Posts in smaller communities, they have a very good relationship with their law enforcement.
Yep.
They can call up their law enforcement and say, hey, we're having an event. We'd like somebody to come down and just block the road so we can get out of our posts. And boom, they show up, no cost, no problem. Sometimes they'll even assign somebody to ride with the group for the whole ride, right? As long as it's within their jurisdiction. Other municipalities, like, Miami-Dade, that's not gonna happen. Right? Duval, that's not gonna happen. If I want Popo to come out, I'm gonna have to pay $110 each for Popo to come out. Right? But they'll gladly come out, and they gladly, readily support us.
They want to be supported too.
Yeah. Another thing, if you're trying to set up a Leo escort, you need to get a hold of the Leo and ask them what their specific requirements are. For instance, billing, smaller communities, no bill. Larger communities, it's a special division, and they're gonna want checks. Like in Duval County, JSO, you have to pay for 3 hours of their time, and you have to pay for it up front, and it has to be a check written to each individual officer. Okay, and then we have to be advised that they will not go outside of Duval County. So if we have a run that is encompassing 2-3 counties, there's a big problem. Because JSO, once they hit the Duval County line, they're not gonna go over into Nassau County. So you will have to contact Nassau County and ask Nassau County to take you up at the county line and escort you through Nassau County. Some municipalities, it doesn't go by county, it goes by district, block, street, whatever, right? So just get all your local law enforcement, ask them what their procedures are, and if there's gonna be any costs. And if there's costs, ask them how it's to be paid. Like the JSO, they want an individual check made out to the individual officer. And I'll tell you up front that when they roll up to an event, their OIC will get out, he will find the OIC of the group and say, do you have our checks? And came up to me on one event, I said, no sir. He turned and started to walk away, right? But he does, he's got it. We'll turn back around, we had a great event, so it's still there. If you're gonna have an in-house function, ensure that you clear your posts, and again, kitchen manager, bar manager, get it on the calendar, get that notification form, have everybody sign it, okay? will the event be held inside or outside? If it's held inside, probably not an issue. You know, if you get permission to use the kitchen, canteen manager may need to put on an extra, bar staff, who knows, right? If you're working in the kitchen, somebody's supposed to have a food handler certificate. I think there's a class for that. Okay. If you're gonna have your event outside of your post, right? If you have that, cordoned off backyard, the pavilion, tiki bar, whatever, out back, can you take beer out into the tiki bar, into the backyard, to the pavilion? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it's contained, it's within the alcohol footprint, right? When you apply for your alcohol license, you have to give them a footprint. And as long as you're within that footprint, you're good. What if you wanna have it out in the front yard, right? Your parking lot out front, who can take a beer from their post, walk out to the parking lot, sit on the hood of their car, drink their beer? No one, right? But what if you need to use that parking lot for your event because your post maybe only has a capacity of 150 people and you're expecting 200 people to show up, right? You're gonna have it out in the parking lot. So how do you do that legally? Nope, going wrong. These are severely out of focus. Okay, so if you do that, right, it's very simple. Know your municipality, know what the rule is. In Duval County, we can get a special event permit. It costs $100. Okay, we're gonna serve beer out there. We then have to go to the state, go to DBPA, right? And it's a $25 certificate to get a temporary permit to serve beer out in the parking lot, right? Pretty painless. In Duval County, when you go to apply for your county special permit, your city special permit, there's a little tab right there you can click on, and it'll take you right straight to the Florida website where you can apply for your $25 certificate. I was told in an earlier class that 2 counties has it included in their special permit. You don't have to go to the state. I will say that if it is, make sure that it is a part of that special permit from your municipality, and that you're not misreading the print on the form, because as far as I know, if you have an event with alcohol, you still have to get that $25 permit from Professional Business Association. Okay, so regardless of the type of event you're planning, they all have common themes. Prior planning, communication, you have to communicate. Cooperation, right? Got to be cooperation not only between the members of the planning committee, but all entities involved, right? The big one is you need to know the rules and regulations surrounding the event that you're proposing within your community. Again, we covered this already earlier. Communicate with the establishment your expectations and needs. Say, for instance, on the third stop, they always provide finger food, right? But you know, at fourth stop, you're gonna have that $12 chicken dinner, and you don't want people full from finger food. So at the third stop, make sure they realize that you want nothing provided in the way of food, right? A lot of times we'll go into an establishment, right, for a poker run, and we'll not only draw a card, but we'll also do a bottle raffle, right? Communicate prior to, get with the manager of that facility and ask them permission to hold that raffle, okay? Don't just walk in and go, hey, I got a bottle, start the raffle. You might be asked to leave. But if you communicate prior to, that bar manager, that owner may say, oh. And it's open to all the members, right? Make sure that she knows that whoever wins that bottle, it's not permissible to crack the seal on that bottle until they leave the facility. right? So I've seen where you walk in, you go, yeah, I wanna do a raffle. Okay, fine. I'll match it. I'll go in the back cooler and they'll dig out a bottle and say, here you go, put this on the raffle too, right? So you never know, but prior communication, that's what it's all about. A couple of days up to a week before the event, go out and do the ride, okay? Take those forms with you and hit every establishment, right? Remind them. Ethel, that signed the form 2 months ago, she may not be there anymore, right? So you got the form, they know you're coming, right? Also, it's very important to do the ride, do the pre-ride before the event, because I've seen time and time again where the business that was thriving 6 weeks, 2 months ago, is now closed, right, for whatever reason. Or there's construction, you know, I mean, it's not a ride unless we make a U-turn. Right? Going down the road, you see a sign that says, road in.
My GPS is.
So do the free ride, you know, and the chances of making that U-turn are diminished. Also, while you're out on the road, before you leave establishment A, call establishment B and say, hey, you know, we should be there in about 35, 40 minutes. We've got about 70 people in tow. Just be ready for us, right? They appreciate that. They may have 2 people that they assigned to the bar, but the one person's out back washing dishes, scrubbing taters, doing whatever, right? They know, hey, they're on the way. They get tater scrubber to come in and man the bar, and now we don't have a line going all the way out to the parking lot.
And that's very critical if you're running behind.
Very
Because
critical.
people get hot at you and think you're not showing up. So if you're running behind, which it generally happens, I don't know of anybody that is right on time, just make sure that that courtesy's there as well.
All right, advertisement. You need to do advertisement before and after your ride. Okay, before the ride, before you do anything, you need to establish a date. You need to get that date on your district calendar, if you have one. You need to put that date out at your district meeting, which I hope you have one. And then create a flyer, create an event page. Right, so if you create an event page, what does that do? Well, I don't know about y'all, but if someone creates an event and I say I'm going to it or I'm interested in it, I get alerts on my phone saying, hey, in 3 days you got an event. Right? It's a self-reminder, so go ahead and create that event page. Use QR codes on your flyer, right? I'm not gonna go into how to download them and how to set them up. You can Google, but there's a lot of free apps for generating QR codes. Okay. Flyers. When you generate a flyer, generate the flyer as if the person reading the flyer is from all the way across the United States. Okay? When I pick that flyer up, the event should jump out at me. The time, date should jump out at me, right? And I should be able to look at that flyer and go, okay, I know exactly where I need to be, when I need to be, and what it's going to cost me to participate in this event. Preferably on the flyer, you will have all of the stops with their address. Now, why would that be important? Maybe I've got a meeting at 10 o'clock and I can't make the 10:30 KSU, right? But I want to participate, and I look on the flyer and I say, oh, okay, they're going to be at Schmuckatelli's at 11 o'clock. I can make Schmuckatelli's. So I plug in Schmuckatelli's one Schmuckatelli way into my GPS, and boom, I'm sitting there waiting on the ride to come in. Ride comes in, I'm like, I want to join. They whip out a spare registration form, waiver. I sign it, give them my money, now I'm part of the ride, right? When you are making your flyers, be aware of the American Legion trademark restrictions, okay? And also ensure your flyer is in good taste with no foul language, nudity, etc., right? We are the Legion. There are people within the Legion hierarchy that will sporadically go out and download flyers and look at them and determine whether they're appropriate or inappropriate, and you may or may not get a phone call saying you need to cease and desist. Okay. So on the Legion logo, the big deal, right here's the website. You can go to it, it gives you all the information about name, image, guide, trademark infractions, etc., right? So basically what it's going to tell you is the Legion family logos cannot be superimposed or have anything superimposed upon them, or cannot be surrounded or touched by anything. So the prime example of that would be our old polo shirts. We used to have the American Legion emblem superimposed on top of the state of Florida. About 3 years ago, there was a cease and desist. If you buy a shirt now, you will have that same logo, but if you notice, right around the Legion emblem, there's going to be a separation bar, right? If you look real close, you're going to have the emblem, you're going to have nothing, and you're going to have the state. So just be aware of it. It's no big deal. Another issue with flyers is people create flyers and they want to make them like a Picasso. Right? It's beautiful. I mean, you can frame these darn things and put them on a wall, right? They're beautiful. But they're worthless because they use yellow font on top of a beige background. You can't read them. You have no idea. It's just a Picasso. Everything's all jumbled up. Don't do that. Make it clear and concise. There are a lot of free flyer apps out there that you can download. This is the top 7, right?
You don't have poster my wall on there.
Yeah.
So this is what we use.
You said the top 7.
He was waiting for you.
Great little app. We use it almost exclusively up in Jack's area. Once you create a flyer, save it. Once you get a library of flyers, it's a piece of cake. You know, you can get a phone call, and it's like, yeah, I want to do this event, I need a flyer. Okay, you just go into your library, you find the flyer from last year's event, you change the date, you change the stop or whatever, and by the time you hang the phone up, you're hitting the send button, right? So that's a good app.
Well, and one of the things too, I just wanted to raise, because I did not know this, because I use post my wall all the time. Verna just explained to me, you can sign in and create accounts for yourself, and they're free, and that's where you can save and tweak and whatever. I did not know that. I figured if I had to sign in, I had to pay for something, but you don't have to, and then that creates the library that Denny's talking about.
All right, again, just a little overview. Printer cartridges are expensive, so keep your colors to a minimum. You want your information at the top, so make sure there's contrast between the background and the wording. The viewer, when they look at your flyer, they need to immediately see the who, when, where, what, and why, right? And then also upload your flyer to every entity you can think of. Most other motorcycle associations will have Facebook or a website of some sort. Most of them will go ahead and put your flyer on their, or allow you to put your flyer on their page. That normally will go to an admin will look at it. If it's not a conflict with an event they're having, they'll go ahead and put it on, approve it. It'll pop right up. So, when we have an event, you might see our event advertised on CPA website. You might see you'll see it advertised on South Georgia, North Florida biker event page, right? Find those, upload it. Another thing is go to the other entities in your area. Take a bunch of flyers with you, right? You got an event coming up, find out when the local llama chapter's meeting. Go up before the meeting. say, who's the president? Find out the president. Go talk to him, say, hey man, I would like to come in and just give me 3 minutes. I'd like to talk about my event. I'll leave some flyers and I'll be out of here. I've never been turned down, right? You go in, you go, hey, I'm having this event. Here's some flyers. We'd love to have you. Thanks for your time. Make a donation, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Walk out the door, right? Eye to eye. You're gonna have a lot more success eye to eye. Same thing when you go to fellow chapters, sister chapters, asking for donations. You can send that email, you can send that form letter, but nothing works like standing up in front of a group of people going, hey, I've got this event. I really would like you to think about supporting this, not only by attending, but, you know, we can use a little cash donation also. Here's an example of a flyer. I'm from Indiana. I still go back up to Indiana occasionally. I know where Rushville's at. You know, we used to have the antique farm show in Rushville. I think the last time I was in Rushville, I was probably about 12 years old. But maybe I'm riding up, I'm gonna visit my cousin, and I look on the web and I see this event. So we wanna ride, it's a nice day. He's from ALR, Indiana. He knows where Rushville's at, but he don't know where the Sportsman Bar is at, right? So is this flyer doing us any good? Nope, absolutely not. Write your flyer for the individual that is not familiar with your area. Some of the considerations for events, we highlighted on a few earlier, but I want to go over. Permits. Know the permit that's going to be required for your event in your locality. The permit that's required in Metro Dade area is not the same as the one from Melrose, right? Fees. Know what the fees are. Is there going to be a fee for the road? Is there going to be a fee for cleanup fee? Is there going to be a fee for whatever, right? And know how you're going to pay those fees. Insurance, I'm going to touch on that in a moment. Advertising, again, you want to create flyers, and then you also want to create a media release. I'll get into that in a moment. Notification, I can't stress enough. Get a form, take it around when you do your initial planning, get them to sign it, get their information, give them your information, and then stay in touch with them throughout the process. Route planning. Hey, you need to plan your route if it's just a little charity ride or a small chapter ride based upon the minimum requirement of the member. If they're having a large event, that's on them, right? So you can go to, if you're a member of AAA, you can go to AAA and say, okay, I'm having this event. I want a route going from location A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I want it to be all secondary roads. They'll plug it in, they'll give you a route. You can publish that, give it to the people as a suggestion. Hog used to have, I think they still do have a similar route planning program app on their website, or you can choose Google or whatever, but go ahead and map it out. Entertainment, food, hotel accommodations, as we touched on earlier. If you're going to be spending the night, call the hotel, see if you can get a group rate. Do not expect to be able to use the tax exempt number of the post. Again, permits they are what they are. You have to know what's required for your area. That's the website of the DBPR. You just click on it and it'll take you right to the page where you fill in all your information, and it'll want your $25, and then boom, you can have your beer truck out in the parking lot with considerations. And again, it goes back to the permitting. For instance, I was at an event, they got their permit to sell beer. They rolled a beer truck up into the parking lot, started selling beer. I'm in line. Popo comes in, shuts the line down. Right? Why? Well, they did not adhere to all of the constraints in that you have to cordon off the area that you're gonna sell and consume beer in. It has to be on the permit, right? So they can get a street permit where you could have alcohol on the whole street. So they had to go ahead and take some barrels and cones, wrap it around the beer truck, and then put tape up, right? From cone to barrel, right? So that's a designated area. So you go in, get your beer, and you have to stand there. Not a lot of fun, but they didn't do their due diligence. That's what I'm saying, do your due diligence. And, fees, will there be any fees associated? If there are, you know who is going to pay them, how they're gonna be paid, and where the funding is gonna come from. Insurance requirement. It's always been suggested that if you have a special event, that you have insurance to cover that event. Now, the post should have insurance and it should cover the ALR. But if you have a special event, you may want to get a rider. Riders are very cheap, right? And all a rider is just, you get a hold of your insurance agent and you're basically changing the policy as originally written, normally temporarily, okay? So you call up your agent and say, I'm gonna have this event, I need $1 million liability rider for 18th of June. Okay, it'll be $150. Okay, done, right? So I know this has little to do with event planning, but insurance is a big deal. When you go back to your post, right, ask the commander to show you the proof of insurance. You need to have property damage, liability, director and officer, employee theft. In particular, the ALR should be concerned about property damage, liability, D&O. Okay? They need to be named specifically on that policy, because if you're not covered. Okay, why would you need, everybody know what D&O is? Instructor and officers, right? So if you have an event and there's an issue on that event and that issue sues the post, they're gonna sue the post, they're gonna sue the ALR, they're gonna sue the post commander, or they're gonna name the post commander, they're gonna name the ALR director at a minimum, right? So D&O insurance covers you in the event of a lawsuit, right? So it's very important that you, as ALR directors, be covered under your post D&O. It's very important that your post have D&O insurance. I know for a fact that, I'll use my post for example. When I became commander, I walked in, we had our district audit, they said, show me if you have proof of insurance. I whipped out an email that said our deposit was due. I said, of course we do, right here. I just got this email. We got to pay $4,000 as a deposit, right? Oh, okay, good deal, right? Bothered me. So a couple of weeks later, I go checking into it. I call up the insurance company, and they're like, yeah, you've got liquor liability. I said, well, what about property damage? No, you don't have that. What about casualty? No, you don't have that. What about, you've got liquor liability, that's it. So then we had to go out and get a policy for property damage, liability, D&O, employee theft, casualty, wind and casualty, fire, et cetera, okay? And when we wrote those policies, I made sure that in that policy, all the officers were covered, right? Not only for the Legion, but for the Sons, the Auxiliary, and the ALR. So, very important. If you're going to involve an outside entity, like for instance, when we do the POW MIA run, one year we started it at the wall downtown, the Veterans Memorial Wall downtown. Another year we started over at Adamak. Both entities wanted a minimum of $1 million for liability and property damage and personal injury. Okay, again, call up the insurance agent, very minimal, a couple $100, and we're good to go. And it's listed for that day and that day only. The other entities, they requested a copy of that rider, so I had to give them the physical rider to show that we actually had purchased a rider for the event. Okay, your media release. You want to generate a media release for your event. You want it to be short and concise, right? A lot of newspapers have community affairs, and they will list community events for free. They usually have a 12, 15 word maximum. So you want your event, your media release to be very short and concise. It must contain in it the who, what, when, where, and why of your event. You need to post your event on not only your district, but also put it on the department website. Right, that's another class. Take it, it's a good class, right? So once your event is sanctioned, go ahead and start promoting it. Put it out on, like I said, Facebook, all websites, etc. Okay, so when you generate your media release, you also want to generate a narrative to go with it. In the narrative, you will give a background of who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, right? It'll be a story. Media release is just a very short how, who, when, where, what, why. You tell the story in the narrative. Why is that important? Well, they're not going to publish a narrative, but as a reporter reads it, they may see something that they want to report on, right? So you've given them enough information that they can write like a little 150-word article for their next publication. And you're going to get free advertisement because they're going to run an article in the community section of the newspaper, right? During the event, take plenty of pictures and video. Now, when you take pictures, make sure the picture is a good picture. We don't need flash. You know, the guy moving is all blurred. We don't need pictures of that. We don't need pictures of the back of people's heads, right? You want good pictures with good lighting, right? Same thing with video.
Don't have alcohol in your pictures.
Right, yeah, that's always frowned upon, but go ahead, take the pictures, take the video, and then write up a short narrative. Create you an album, right? Write up a short narrative of what is happening. One of the pictures that must be of a security event, check presentation, right? You want that big old check. You also want an overview of all the participants, the bikes, right? If you have any dramatic scenes, like a group of motorcycles going over a bridge, or something that is just, you know, makes you go, wow, right? Be sure to include that with an explanation of what it's about, what's happening, okay? Once you have that album, go ahead and create a Facebook story, right? Instagram, upload it to Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, any other social media platform you can think of, upload it. Then link your event to that album, right? Why do you want to do that? Well, because these reporters are lazy, right? But they got search engines, so they'll go ahead and plug in a couple of key words. If your event pops up on their screen and they see some interesting pictures, right, you're like, oh, and then they go through and they look at the narrative. Wow, I got my next article, and I don't have to do anything. Because, you know, they're like us, they're lazy. They want to get paid for as little work as possible. So if you do all the work for them, you know, and that's happened. We have had many events in Burnham, the Great Clap, did just that. She's taken a lot of great pictures and wrote a little narrative and put it out on social media. A week later, we get a phone call. You know, somebody from, one time it was from National. It's like, hey, we saw your event. We'd like to run it international. Right? Oh, wow, okay. Cool. So, advertise before to get people there. Advertise after to show your success. And because of that coverage, at the next POWMIA ride, Remembrance Ride, we're supposed to have Steve Brooks from National and his team come down and cover it live.
Oh.
So, the same thing with your local newspaper and TV. stations. If you give them a video and you give them a narrative, and they don't have to do any work, they'll scale it down to 3 seconds and put it on the 5 o'clock news, right? That's invaluable. So I went to Scott Butler, who's the editor of the Times Union newspaper in Jacksonville, and I said, what can we do to get more of our events covered, right? His response, quote unquote, pretty much just like we've always been taught as journalists about the 5 W's and an H. Just be sure to include the who, what, where, when, why, and how of your event. For us, it's also about the local angle because newspaper staffs are dwindling down to nothing these days. So we're pretty much going to ignore unless there's a good local peg. Also, think about anything you can provide that would make it easier to cover or write up because our resources are pretty thin. Things like quotes, contacts, and photos are a must. So what he's basically telling you is what I just said earlier. I'm lazy, but if you give me a good article, I will run your article and get paid for it. And that makes us happy because, you know, we got the front page. Okay, moving on to some of the legal issues. Gift tax. Who believes that if you give someone a gift, they're gonna have to pay taxes on it? No one. Good. Okay. Currently, IRS Pub 525 says that you are able to donate, or gift, not donate, but gift, $16,000 to an individual per year, for a grand total of $12.6 million for a lifetime of that individual. Okay? So if you gift the person $16,001, $16,001, who pays tax on that $1?
The recipient.
Donor.
The gifter, right? The giftee never pays tax. It's always the giver, not the giver, the giver. Now, you probably will not pay any tax on it because what will happen is that $1 will be carried over into the next year. And then it'll be carried over to the next year until you reach that $12.6 million. So don't be fearful of giving $20,000 if you have that ability to an individual. Okay. So if you give an individual, have a charity event for an individual, is there any time that you have to give the money to a guardian as opposed to directly to the individual?
It's a minor.
Only if that person has been assigned a guardian by the courts. Okay? Otherwise, you can give it to that person. People will say, well, that person, they're not responsible, so we want to pay their bills. But you can do that. You can pay their bills, right? But that's got to be an agreement between you and that individual. If you raise money from that individual, and that individual says, I want cash, there's not much you can do, right? Because you already obligated that money to Schmuckatelli, right? So if you don't give Schmuckatelli that money in one way, form, or fashion, you've now violated the statute. So just be aware of that. There's nothing wrong with going up to Schmuckatelli and saying, hey, we want to have a fundraiser for you. We want to pay your 3 months of back mortgage and 2 months of future mortgage, right? Will you agree to that? Oh, yeah, we'll sign right here. Right? And then hold money back to pay future mortgage and make sure that you have proof that you paid that future mortgage. So Schmuckatelli can't come back 6 months from now and say, they paid my back mortgage, but they didn't pay anything going forward. Just get it in writing. Wording matters. So on your flyers, right, if you say 100% of money collected is going to a charity, 100% of the money collected needs to go to that charity. 100% of the money donated is going to the charity. Well, 100% of the money donated needs to go to that charity. That charity event is going to cost money. How are you going to pay for that? Right? So if you go up to an establishment requesting sponsorship and you say, I want $500, $500 is going to go straight to the charity, you have to give that $500 designated to go to the charity. So to pay for the event, you can take the money out of like registration, 50/50, raffles, etc. But if you say 100% is going, 100% needs to go. So just be careful how you word your flyers, right? Proceeds. Proceeds indicates that it's gonna be a net, not a gross. So just be careful on your wording. Florida gaming statute. I want to talk about this because of raffles. Okay, when you read the Florida gaming statute, it's very long and detailed. Okay, if you look at the rules for the motorcycle raffle, it's on the website, you'll see what I'm talking about, right? So they basically copied this statute and put it on the rules for the bike raffle. Okay? No one ever reads the rules, no one ever asks about it, but you need to be aware. Okay? So if you're going to have a motorcycle raffle that's gonna be over a 3-month period, you need to have somewhere the rules surrounding that raffle. Basically, it has to be stated what it is, the value, when it's gonna be presented, where it's gonna be presented, et cetera, right? Pretty much common sense items, but one of the items in there says that they're eligible for a ticket at no cost, right? You cannot charge. It's basically a donation for a ticket, but if they request a ticket, right, and they don't want to pay, you have to give them a ticket. You know, your buddy can beat the crap out of it and take it back, but you know, that's, I didn't say that. So anyway, the deviation to that rule is quick raffles, and that is 3-day. If you have an event and you have a raffle, and from the time you start the raffle to the time the raffle prize is awarded is less than 3 days, you don't have to abide by any of that. So all those raffles that you have at your event, you don't have to abide by Title XLVI, Chapter 849, right? You just go ahead and hold your raffle. But if you're gonna have that raffle extended over 4 days, then you need to download all of the requirements of Chapter 849, post them, and adhere to them. This is elementary, but you want to create 2 binders, right? One is gonna be an event binder, and you wanna put everything in there. You wanna put all of your contacts in there, you wanna put all of your notes, discussions, quantities, everything. Here's a prime example. You had a low country boil last year. It was very successful. You wanna do it again this year. You're talking about it, the question comes up, well, we had about 10 pounds of shrimp left over, so maybe we should order a little bit less shrimp this year. Well, okay. How many did we order last year? Well, I think it was 30 pounds. No, I think it was 60 pounds. No, it was 50. We got a box, right? Now you got a problem, but if you got that notebook, you can go back through and go, yeah, no, guys, we got 35 pounds, right? Same thing with contacts, okay? When I call JSO's special unit, right, to try to talk to Eddie about setting up a police escort, he's got his own dedicated desk phone, but it's a collateral duty for Eddie. Eddie is not at his desk. You're never gonna get a hold of Eddie unless you have his cell phone, right? So in my notes, I've got his cell phone. Right? So generate a notebook, keep all your information in there. Right? Another notebook that you want, we'll call it a portfolio. And that book, you wanna have pictures of your event, and in particular, pictures of the check donation, right? And you wanna use that when you go out to solicit funds for your next event, right? So, true story, we had a couple of very successful poker runs. We took a lot of pictures, and we wrote up little narratives, put it in the binder, right? We go to, you know, Mike and Megan, I went out, try to get solicitations from, the different entities out in town. And they're like, yeah, who are you? You know, we don't wanna talk to you. We whip out our little portfolio and so, you know, 2 years ago, this was our charity event. They're looking, it's like, oh, wow, how many people attended? Oh, we had about 200. Oh, wow, okay. Oh, wow, you donated $16,000? Yeah, it was an off year that year. Right? They don't know anything.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they look at you in a different light. You're no longer just some schmuckatelli walking in off the street with a desire, right? You have proof of action, right? So, another true story, Mike and I did that. We walked into Cox Communication. We were wanting $500. That's all we wanted, $500 for them. We walked in, they was, whatever. We sat down, shoved our portfolio over, just started thumbing through it. Manager come in, he goes, so you guys want $500 sponsorship? Yeah, you know, we'll put your name on the billboard, on a banner, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'm not gonna give you $500. Okay,
Here's 1,000.
yeah, we tried. He goes, well, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll give you a week's worth of advertisement on the morning show.
Wow.
Right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So having a good portfolio of previous successes is great to have. So in summary, you have to decide what type of event you're gonna have, and then you have to get everyone on board with it. You will have people that will want to grow your fun run into a mega run, keep them contained, right? Get everyone to decide whether you're going to do a little dice run, a little charity run, and then move forth, right? If it is more than just a real small entity, you probably need to develop a committee, right? Generate a committee. The big thing with a committee is assign names, right? Give people jobs, assign them to a task, and then hold them accountable, right? Call them up. Hey man, where's my portal at? What? You've not called? You better call. I need a place to be. I'm gonna call you back in 3 days. I want quotes from 3 different food companies. The big one. What will the event cost and how will it be funded? Do not ever put on an event with the anticipation of paying for the event by funds generated from that event. Right? Never ever do that. Record and publish your event on social media, right? Advertise it on social media, and once it's completed, right, put it on social media. You can even upload while you're at your event. But who knows? Maybe they'll hit somebody's phone, they're like, oh shoot, that's right down the road. I'm gonna join them, right? Promote. Before, during, after. Promote. As soon as the event's over, get all the key players together, do a debrief, right? And that first notebook, you're gonna whip it out, you're gonna write down what worked, what didn't work, suggested changes. And then from that, you can start planning next year's event. So, questions? Yes, ma'am?
Not a question, but a statement, and, in too many of these, especially when we go to these events. The one thing at the end of your event that all donors appreciate is a thank you, either in a letter or as they're giving you the donation for your event, taking a picture of them, and then after the event, you sending a picture back to them and saying thank you.
That's a very good point and very true. What we used to do for entities that would sponsor our event is we would give them a certificate or we'd give them a plaque based upon their sponsorship, small plaque, medium plaque, big plaque, okay? We found out that most entities, because we're just mainly swapping between chapters, they just get thrown in a closet somewhere, and that was a lot of wasted money. So we dropped down to giving out a nice, pretty certificate, right, to anyone who sponsored our event. So I go up to a bike shop, right? And I deliver the certificate. The owner of that shop looked at that certificate, threw it in the trash, and said, I will never ever sponsor you again. I want my plaque. They pointed to the wall, right, with all these plaques.
And you know
So,
what else?
know your clientele.
If you have that banner with the sponsorships on it,
Mhm.
take a picture of the banner.
Yeah. Now, he wanted that plaque for his wall.